and welcome to Our Special Lives. I'm Laura McGrath, and today we are talking about dating with a special needs child. If you're a single parent of a child with special needs and want to know how to approach dating or how to deal with some of the obstacles that might be there for you in dating with a special needs child, you're not going to want to miss this episode. And before we get started, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Hi, Kari Ann. Welcome to Our Special Lives.
Laura, it's so nice to see you.
Yes. So for anyone who doesn't know, Kari Ann is my coach, and she's also a dating and relationships coach. So I thought she would be the perfect person to talk to us about this topic, which is how to date if you have a special needs child.
Yes, it can be a little tricky. I too have a special needs child who's an adult, 21, almost 22 years old, and went through the whole divorce thing and dating thing. And now I'm engaged to be married. So I think that this is a really great topic, I think, to talk about today.
Yeah. And I love that you're doing this because you're an example of what is possible with this. I think a lot of people that I read about and, groups, there seems to be a lot of hopelessness around this topic. Mm-hmm. And so I love that you have walked this journey, that you have, gone through the dating scene, and now you have met your person and are really happy. Yeah. And so I'm really excited for you to share some of that with the audience today.
Yeah. Well, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Good. Okay. So I think the first question that I see a lot is people kind of have their heads down. They have gone through a divorce or separation. They are maybe working, they're taking care of their children. And the idea of dating just seems so overwhelming. But they're probably seeking companionship and they don't want to be alone. And so where does somebody in that position start with dating?
Yeah, that can feel really, really overwhelming. I would say, so the way I feel is that I really advocate for meeting people in spaces like of things that you're interested in. And I know that for many of us with special needs kids, making time for ourselves can be really challenging, but you need to figure out a way to make a little bit of time to go to places that you enjoy, whether that's, you enjoy certain types of foods or certain hobbies that you're in. And I think the key is like kind of reminding yourself that you're important as well. And you need to get out just a little bit and start meeting people in an area that you are, already naturally have interest in. The alternative to that, and what most people are doing now, are the dating apps, right? So you go on Bumble, or now every dating app has a different reputation associated with it. So it's also important to get clear about what your goal is of why you want to be dating, whether it's companionship, you just want somebody to hang out with, you're looking for a serious relationship, you're looking to get married eventually. The answer to those questions are going to help you figure out what dating site you might want to start at. I like Bumble just because it's kind of like comes from the woman gets to be the fun to make, the first step. But there's other like religious apps. So if you have a particular worldview or religion that's super important to you, I think it's a wonderful place to find people that share that common interest as well and that common belief. So finding apps that maybe, centers around your faith is a good place to start as well.
Yeah. And just to go back to what you mentioned about finding finding people in areas of common interest, it can be, your church or synagogue or place of worship. It can be a gym. There are community events sometimes that draw people. I know one of our local museums has Thursday night kind of jazz and drinks and that kind of thing. And that really draws a lot of people. So kind of finding some things in the community. You don't necessarily have to have a hobby, but, just being around other like-minded people and kind of getting creative about that. What can you do that doesn't take a whole lot of time, but puts you in the same space as people who might have common interests?
And I think one of the big challenges, especially when you're getting back out there, is like you forget how to flirt. You kind of get shy. You kind of forget some of those things. So when you're out in public, like, so I had the most awesome experience the other day. Was at this coffee shop that I go to pretty much like every other day, just kind of like one of my comfort things that I do for myself. And I have watched this, like these two people this entire time that they like started like sitting out, tables apart. And then one, like I witnessed this whole thing, one of them like making eye contact and then eye contact, right? And over time, they started seat, closer and closer and closer together. And now they're talking. And I've just been watching this from afar for probably a long, for like almost a year, watching these people. So you have to like go into things with the intention of, I'm going to be open to meeting somebody new. I'm going to return eye contact if I think this person looks nice. Because what we do is we kind of put our heads down, especially right now with COVID and like the whole mask thing. People are kind of losing that ability to non-verbally communicate with other people. So it's really about being open, right? When you go to these places, to enjoy yourself, but open to meeting other people.
Yeah. And I know sometimes when I've been in situations, because I'm a bit introverted and I've, sort of felt overwhelmed meeting all these new people, you've advised me like, just, try to make a goal for yourself of like saying hello to one person or saying hello to two people or finding out one thing about one other person that you didn't know. So even setting those mini goals for people who are not like super extroverted can be really helpful.
I agree. And, so many of us, well, obviously I agree. I'm the one that told you to do it, but small talk, so many people avoid small talk. They think it's pointless. Here's the deal, you guys. Small talk is what leads to big talk. Okay. So small talk is how is there any kind of like common interest? Is there any clicking going on? Do you want to talk to that person again? Right. And so just being open to introducing yourself, starting randomly small talk with somebody that you think, might be attractive and, whatever. So it's just really being open to inviting people into like a little bit of your space.
And asking questions because people love to talk about themselves.
They absolutely do. Get curious. My thing is always get curious about the other person.
Yeah. Because that takes some of the pressure off of you too, right?
It absolutely does. Yeah.
Okay. So next question. So you've got a special needs child and, children with special needs take up a little bit more time than our other children. And we may have limitations on our availability or, our ability to travel and things like that. And sometimes I think if you're a single person, that might kind of get in your head, like, I don't know if I'm even going to have time to date or have a relationship. So what would you say to that person?
So when we use the word limitation, now we've actually decided we have limitations. So I think the first thing is just to kind of shift your mindset around that idea that you're limited. Because like you said, even if you had typical kids are still quote unquote limiting, right? You can't always do what you want to do when you want to do it. And special needs just adds to that. And so really kind of reframing it as looking forward to the time that you do have, focusing on the time that you are able to make versus focusing on what you're unable to do in this given amount of time, right? Or in this part of your life, this phase of your life. Something, let me tell you, after going through the special needs journey for 21 years, it changes. It does, it changes. And I realize that, especially with your audience, there's a big spectrum of different types of special needs and different types of energy and focus that needs to happen. But for everybody, things do evolve and change as the years go by. So recognizing that where you're at now and your amount of free time now might look completely different in another year or 2 years or 3 years, right? And so waiting until that changes just kind of hinders your progress of meeting new people and exploring new relationships and things like that. So it's really reframing, choosing not to think about it as a limitation, choosing to think about it as, well, I have 1 hour a week to myself. This is what I get to do. Right. Yeah. And so And I also want to talk about the fact that you need to do things, whether or not you're dating, you need to be doing things for yourself. Because if you're not like filling up your own self, you can't really give 100% to your child. And it is such a healthy, good thing to do, is like to have new relationships, get a little downtime so that it helps you. You know, it's encouraging when you go back home and you have to get back into the caretaking role.
Yeah, so true. So in terms of like, if you do find someone and you are dating them, what do people do in terms of like introducing them to their special needs child? What's kind of appropriate, or what do people do, or how do they navigate that part of it?
So there's really no hard and fast rule. I think that the first thing you need to do is kind of decide ahead of time how you want to approach introducing the topic of having a special needs child to somebody you're dating. I've worked with people who literally put it in their dating app bio because they just want to scare off people who are like, no, that's a hard no for me, right? They kind of want to deal with it on the front end. Other people choose to take the route of letting people know they have kids, and then if there is some kind of chemistry and they've had a few dates, and I think I might be ready to kind of be a little bit more vulnerable, then you offer that up. Like, I was the person that didn't come straight out and say it. Like, my child is very special to me, and the journey we've been on has been a really roller coaster, hard journey at times, and I felt very vulnerable for me. So for me, I wanted to get to know the other person and see, like, do I trust them? How am I feeling about them? And then I kind of open up with that. So, I don't think there's a right or a wrong. There's just what feels good to you. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, it does. I mean, not to get too personal, but when you were dating people, did you have the experience where you did open up and that wasn't really something that the other person felt like they could handle?
Yeah. So there are people that are just like, ooh, no, I'm out. Right. But that's good,
Yeah.
because that means that they're not your person.
Yes.
So a lot of times we withhold because we're afraid of being rejected because of that. But here's what I want to say. If somebody is rejecting you because of that, they're not your person. And it really has nothing to do with you. It has to do with their own thoughts around special needs. And I mean, it is a time commitment. It is a lifestyle kind of shift for people that don't have special needs kids. So, it is a big ask from people coming into your life when you have a special needs child. So I wouldn't take it personal, and don't be afraid of rejection, because that's the only way you're going to know if this is somebody that you want to continue to have conversations with, potentially build a relationship with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not unlike any relationship. I mean, all of us have baggage, all of us have stuff. And, as we get to know somebody better, we, tell them about our stuff, good and bad and all of it. And some of it might not be something that somebody could handle. And, so that's just, having a special needs child is just one more thing as part of your story that, somebody either accepts or rejects, and then you move on to, hopefully somebody who loves all of you. Right.
Exactly. And when you look at when you look at dating, I would say after 3 dates ish, okay, there's no hard fast rule here, but after about 3 dates, you kind of have an idea of, ooh, this is kind of interesting, or no, this isn't really going to go anywhere. And that would be when you would kind of evaluate, okay, now is the time to tell so-and-so about, more about my child or my life, or, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. That's great advice. What happens if somebody I saw this on a post the other day, somebody being scared to date because they're scared they'll never find somebody who loves their child as much as they do?
Well, you don't have to be scared, because you're right. No one's going to love your child the way that you do. Like, that's just an unrealistic expectation. Yeah, it's just an unrealistic unrealistic
for any
expectations
relationship. I mean,
for any
when you're
relationship.
talking about typical stepchildren and all of that stuff, it's
Yep.
just unrealistic that
No.
even the greatest step parent in the world, can't possibly love the children as much or in the same way as their biological parents or
Right.
their adopted parents. Yeah.
Exactly. And what I would say to this is, because obviously I've experienced it. My ex-husband is remarried, and so my daughters have a stepmom. It's a learning curve. And I think you need to give them some grace, right? So it's a learning curve for the other person that's never experienced it. And they might get impatient, they might get frustrated, they might not like the amount of time and attention you have to give your child. That is something that you have to figure out what's important to you and not important to you. For me, it's a make it or break it deal. Like, I needed somebody that was willing to kind of learn about her and kind of walk alongside of me. And frankly, my fiance has turned out like just to be amazing with her, and didn't have any experience at all with special needs kids before he met me. You have to give them some time and some space as they kind of learn and figure it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
But bottom line is, having the expectation that someone will ever love your kids' special needs or not as much as you do is just not a realistic place to start.
No,
okay.
No.
Okay.
No. And wait, one more thing I want to say is, like, if you even think about biological parents, right, of the child, they have a different relationship each. So any relationship you have with your child or anybody is very unique. Yeah. Right. And so it's even no different from a mom and a dad, or a mom and a mom, and a dad and a dad who have a special needs child. They're going to have their own unique relationship with that child.
How do you feel like and we kind of touched on this earlier, but just having a lot of overwhelm around being able to make time for dating, if your special needs child is dependent on you? Right.
So you make time for things that you really want to make time for. And what I hear a lot of is, I hear a lot of people, just saying, well, I can't. And then they give me all these reasons why they can't make time, like for an hour. And it's always, having to do with, not being able to find childcare and da, da, da. Well, here's the bottom line. There is a way to do it. You just have to think outside of the box. And well, I'm going to give you an example. Mine isn't about dating, but there was a time when I just felt like I couldn't get a particular job because of my child, and because I was the person that was primarily responsible for her, and this and that. And then I had this medical emergency, and I was in the hospital. I couldn't do anything. Guess what? I found a way to have my child taken care of. Right? So when you have to, you do it. The problem is, we don't prioritize ourselves enough to consider it yes, I must find a way to make this happen. So you have to get creative, whether it's asking family members, a neighbor. My go-to was college students who were in the child development majors and who were specializing in special needs. Call in help once a week for a certain amount of time, whether you contact your regional center. There are places that give you respite care. That's why it's called respite care. It's to give the primary caregiver a little bit of a break. So you have to be willing to step away and let somebody step in. And I think that's a huge roadblock for parents.
Yeah. Well, and anytime you argue for your own limitations, you will never break out of that cycle.
Exactly.
Right? You just have to set those limitations aside and really try to just solve the problem, which is, how do I make a little bit of time in my week to try to find a companion?
Right. And the thing is we don't look at them. I mean, these are limiting beliefs, but the common person, the normal person, doesn't say, oh, well, this is a limiting belief. Right? It takes somebody else telling you, no, wait. Let's think about this another way. There is a solution.
Yeah. So that gets me to, Kari Ann, if people want to learn more about you or want to get specific dating help from you in terms of coaching that might be able to get them to a different place in their coaching or in their, dating life, how can they reach you?
I think the easiest way to reach me is I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram and Facebook. My handle is Kari, Kari, and then a period, life coaching. I also have a website, www.karilifecoaching.com.
I'll link to all that below.
I link to all that. Perfect. And simply like in Instagram or Facebook, if you just shoot me a message, let me know you're interested. I'd be more than happy to do a free like chat, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's just a normal phone call, just to kind of see what's going on with you and see if I can help you and if we're a good fit. And just get to know each other.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. You've given us so many great things to think about if we're a special needs parent and trying to navigate the dating world. And we always appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.